Hi, I'm Dan Clifton, Head of Policy Research at Strategas Securities. With Joe Biden delivering his first speech to a joint session of Congress last night, investors are asking three big questions as we head into another round of a fiscal policy debate. One, what is the political environment going into this next round of fiscal policy, which consists of infrastructure spending, social policy, and tax increases? Two, what is the outlook for potential tax increases getting enacted sometime this year? And three, could those tax increases be enacted retroactively? Let's start from the beginning. Joe Biden came into office. He had basically a very limited mandate coming into office. We had a very divided House, a very divided Senate, and President Biden really just won the tipping point states by 65,000 votes on a base of 160 million voters. We read that as a mandate to crush COVID-19 and get the U.S. economy back on track. After the first 100 days, President Biden is able to report very good success in this level. You're seeing a rapid level of vaccinations taking place. We believe about 70% of U.S. adults will reach some level of immunity from COVID-19 this week, and we are on the verge of a massive reopening. At the same time, the U.S. economy is enjoying faster economic growth as the economy reaccelerates, as Congress has authorized more fiscal stimulus this year than last year, and all of that is working to help bolster up President Biden's political capital going into the next round of fiscal policy debate. At Strategas, we have an election model. We put Joe Biden's numbers in there and compared him across presidents. Joe Biden has the highest level political capital of any president going back 50 years, given the level of strength of the economy and the improvement in the vaccine. And he's really going to need that political capital because the fight over the next legislative priorities of Congress are going to be much more difficult than it was earlier this year over a COVID-19 package. President Biden has put forward a vision of massive expansion of the government, something that we haven't seen really over the last 50 years. This is very reminiscent of the Great Society, and it is a framework change. Framework change both on the spending side, but also a framework change on the tax increase side. What's been proposed on spending? Well, you're looking at a massive infrastructure bill of around $2 trillion that consists really of several components. First, clean energy economy, with almost $200 billion in there for renewable energy spending, $100 billion of that focused on electric vehicles. Number two, about $100 billion for roads and bridges. Number three, another $100 billion for water, $100 billion for broadband, $100 billion for new grid spending, as well as money for affordable housing, job training, and home health aid. There is bipartisan support for about half of that infrastructure spending. There are bipartisan negotiations going on right now between the Republicans in the Senate and the White House to see if they can get a mini deal done on infrastructure spending. If no deal is reached between the Republicans and the White House, we fully anticipate that the Democrats will start moving infrastructure through what's called budget reconciliation, where they can pass legislation in the United States Senate with a simple majority. President Biden has also proposed another $2 trillion last night of social spending. This consists of free community college, more child care, paid family leave act, as well as expanded multi-year child credit, where parents receive $300 per month over the next 5 years, and more generous Obamacare subsidies into one package. Let us be clear, there is zero support for these provisions amongst Republicans, and if the Democrats are going to pass these bills, they're going to have to do it on a standalone basis. Of course, people say, how can we pay for all this given that we have a $4 trillion deficit? Joe Biden is proposing probably the largest tax increase that we've seen since 1968. And when you go back and look historically at tax increases, whether it's President Obama or President Clinton, President George Herbert Walker Bush, those tax increases were about 0.4% of GDP. Biden is proposing about 1.4% of GDP. So 3 times larger than any tax increase that we've seen over the last 40 years. And they really consist of tax increases on U.S. companies and high net worth individuals. On companies, Biden's proposing a 28% corporate tax rate, but he's also proposing a very meaningful shift to a worldwide tax system, which would tax U.S. multinational income on a worldwide basis. Just 4 countries in the world have that system, with Mexico being the largest country. It would likely put U.S. companies at a competitive disadvantage, and we would anticipate the lobbying on those corporate tax changes to be pretty serious, particularly if there's no deal this summer at the OECD for a global minimum tax deal. Our base case is that we're probably going to see about a 25% rate on corporate and about a 15% on international income. So Congress beginning to water down some of the Biden proposals. On the individual side, you see sweeping changes. A 43.4% capital gains and dividend tax rate. We think that's unlikely going to pass. That's going to end up somewhere around a 28% capital gains rate. If you read the fine print of the Biden proposal put out last night, it's also talking about a 43.4% individual income tax rate by adding a 3.8% Medicare surcharge on top of the ordinary income tax rate. And you also see sweeping changes around the estate tax. In particular, a move from a step-up basis to a carryover basis and an unrealized capital gains tax at the time of death on any gains that are not realized over $1 million. This is going to be a lot for Congress to swallow, and our sense right now is that Congress is not really in the mood for these very sweeping changes, at least 7 or 8 senators. And so we expect to see that you'll start to see these plans begin to get moderated down in the summer. It's going to be a long legislative process, and right now the process to passage is as clear as mud, so to speak. And my sense is that we're going to be debating these bills over the course of the summer and into the fall, which leaves us to the last question. Can these changes be retroactive? And I think it's unlikely that the capital gains tax will be retroactive. We've never had a retroactive capital gains tax increase in U.S. history, and I think that the more likely scenario will be if capital gains taxes are going higher, it will be around the date of enactment. On corporate income, we expect it to be prospective, at least to 2023 or 2022, possibly phased in over 2 years to 2023. And if there really is no agreement, you could possibly see this delayed out before any tax increase kicks in until after the midterm election in 2023, if there really is no agreement. On income and estates, for right now, the plan is not to put them in retroactively, but in both cases, we have done retroactive tax increases. Income seems to be the more likely of the two, which would be facing a retroactive tax increase. So with that, those are the 3 big issues. We wanted to give you a quick update. Please let us know if you have any questions, and thank you for listening.